Good evening, everybody. Welcome to the Matt Willson SFL Kickoff Show. I'm Mike Daggs. He's Gerald Smith. We've got Cameron Irvine and Ron Haynes on production. Welcome to Week 13 of Season 24 of the Simulation Football League. Gerald, back on Friday.
Yeah, I didn't have to cry myself to sleep for a day.
Yeah.
So I'm all good. Cameron made us happy.
John, the Lake Man in the chat, he was here first. He was here like 20 minutes ago.
Yeah,
he's excited for it being Friday.
He's waiting, and his game is coming up right after this, so he's
big game.
He's hype.
A big game that we're going to talk about probably 3 different times tonight, I think, when
Yeah,
we
I
talk
think so.
about playoff seeding, and we'll get into some playoff predictions. We're going to break down that game in detail. We've got a lot of great stuff going on in the show tonight, so we're going to go through a few different things. We're only going to break down the one game, Houston at Denver, because we are going to actually revisit our pretenders and contenders and see where they're at so far on the season, and we'll make some playoff predictions, and we'll go through the playoff picture. All sorts of great stuff coming up. But first, let's talk about some of the things that happened last week. Gerald, you know how they say even a broken clock is right twice a day?
Right.
Oklahoma City, the proverbial, no offense, broken clock of the SFL this season, got a win.
Yeah, look, and they almost snuck as my pick. As I was making my pick, I almost talked myself into changing my pick. And I did say, hey, look, if the game they're going to win from now to the end of the season, this was the one. And they went in there, and they actually made it happen.
They did. They got the win over in Indianapolis, on the road, no less. They were in Indy, and they got that win 30-27. Carolina ended up beating Atlanta big, 34-6. And that was enough to win them the East Division. We were both a little bit wrong about DC Queen City, as I recall. We thought maybe, the Corsairs could slay the dragon. We'll talk about that game in just a little bit as well.
Way wrong.
Yeah, we were way wrong about that one. But a couple of upsets. In fact, Charleston earlier on in the beginning of the week, taking on Denver, one of the teams that we'll see on a graphic here in just a second. But Charleston just stomped them 27-17.
And that was a team we actually even said, like, hey, look, Charleston plays better than their actual record. So
yeah,
it was another one that I thought was a tougher game to pick.
Yeah.
And
we were wrong about that one too.
And Charleston.
We'll get into picks later on in the show. Hey, first, let's take a look at the updated playoff graphic. Fresh, hot off the presses, and ready for you guys to see heading here into Week 13. And there you go. There's your top 4, Albuquerque and Washington, Baltimore, Mexico City. And you've got Houston in there at number 5, Vancouver at 6, Bossier City, and Carolina at 7 and 8. And, of course, Fort Worth, Denver, Sin City, and look at that, at number 12, Minnesota, back in it there to round out the top 12. Queen City, Lexington, D.C., just on the outside looking in. Albuquerque clinched a playoff spot with 8 wins. Any other team to get to 8 wins this season will clinch, since there is nobody below that cutoff line, 13 and beyond, that could finish better than 7 and 5. So for the teams playing this week, whether it's Washington, Baltimore, Mexico City, Houston, or Vancouver, Carolina at 7 and 4 as well, but they already clinched. But those other teams, if they are playing and get a win, they could clinch as early as this week. Carolina clinching with the East Division title. So that's the updated playoff look. And Gerald will talk more about the playoff picture in just a little bit as we make some playoff predictions. But first, let's go over the Week 13 schedule. Which of these teams is playing this weekend? On a bye week, we've got Albuquerque, Carolina, Chicago, D.C., Fort Worth, Indianapolis, Pittsburgh, Queen City, and Sin City. So those teams all get a week off. This is the last week that we have that many teams on a bye. The rest of the season will have a bunch more games. Only 8 games this weekend, but we've got 3 tonight, and looking forward to getting those ones going. So there's your Week 13 schedule. We'll start things off with Houston at Denver. So there's your first playoff clinching possibility. Houston on the road in Denver, a Denver team that just got beat by a lesser opponent in Charleston.
Kind of, sort of, right? Like I said, it goes back to what we said a while ago. Charleston plays better than what their record is. So, yes. But they went in there, and I mean, Denver's still a good squad. They got a shot still.
So Houston with the first chance of the weekend to clinch later on tonight. Another team with a shot to clinch, Washington at home, hosting the 2-8 Los Angeles Lycans, Chris Curtis and Mark Lopez on the call. So, all things pointing towards Washington clinching the playoffs, a franchise that has really a very long history of seasons, not a long history of playoffs, though.
No.
And Washington in this new brand, new ownership, new leadership, almost certainly making the playoffs.
And they can very likely reach like all time, most wins in a season as well. Like for them to if they keep winning games, they can set themselves a record.
In that same time block tonight, Atlanta and Oklahoma City with Cameron Duty and Anthony Ellison on the call. And that's it for Friday. We'll skip right past Saturday because we're heading into Sunday for more SFL action. Here's another game where one of these teams will clinch. Mexico City at Baltimore. If we were going to highlight a game of the week, that's the one. And I promise, I'm not just saying that because there's an Aztecs banner behind me. 7-2 at 7-2. These two teams are powerhouse teams. Mike O'Neill and Barron Went get one heck of a call to this weekend. And one of those teams will win, and they will clinch that playoff berth. I imagine, regardless of who wins that game, they're probably both going to make it in.
I would say so.
Yeah.
It could, one loss could damage, right? I mean, you guys, how competitive that division is.
Yes, the South is a mess.
Could shift.
It could shift a few things. Yeah, I'm pretty sure there's still a scenario that the Aztecs finish last. But, speaking of that, remember when our producer, you can call me Petty if you want. I don't care. Petty with a capital P likes to call me. I argue it's Petty in all caps. Petty, all caps across the board. Way back when the Aztecs were 2-2, and Cam said, "Oh, Mexico City," right in the chat on our own show. Mexico City's in last place, and I said, "See where we're at after week 12, number 4 seed. We ain't last in our division anymore." Anyway, that's at 6:30 p.m. on Sunday. I had to do it for my team. 6-4, and now he's in the chat. Oh, the mute button. You.
That's awesome.
We're in the market for a new producer for next season's show. Lexington at Nashville in that same time block. 5-5 Lexington at 0-9 Nashville. Nashville still hoping to get their first win of the season. Eric Vincent and John Warren will have that call. At 9 p.m. we've got Minnesota at Charleston, Alex Weston, Rochelle Colston, and Bossier City at Vancouver. Vancouver just coming off a pretty bad loss. Ramos Lynn and DJ Kilgannon will be on the call. Vancouver has the possibility of clinching at home against Bossier City this weekend. The Monday Night Spectacular will follow right after SFL this week, and that one's going to be Florida at Arizona. Teams that still have a playoff shot, but whoever loses no longer does. So it's going to be interesting to see what happens there.
I kind of called it last week, right? With Florida, you lost. I think you're done.
Yeah.
But look, they have a chance to redeem themselves right here against a struggling Arizona team. We'll see how it works out.
We will see how it works out. So, all right, we saw the playoff picture. We saw who's playing this weekend. We've seen the standings, but let's talk about them a little bit more. A few weeks ago in week 9, I don't know. Listen,
a few seasons ago, you said
many moons ago. Did I? Anyway, a few weeks ago in week 9, we did our contenders and pretenders segment, and we talked about the teams that we thought that it was teams that were all kind of middle of the road teams at that point, and we highlighted the teams that we thought would be contenders heading out the rest of the way, and the teams that you thought, because you like to just be sinister and evil, would be the pretenders.
Realist.
Let's revisit it. Let's see where they're at. The first contender that I had selected was Lexington. Lexington currently, they were in that playoff picture, as you see, number 14. They were 4-4 at the time. Now they're at 5-5. Coming up later on this season, they've got 0-9 Nashville. They'll be in 0-9 Nashville this weekend. And then they host 7-3 Vancouver. So are they a contender? Listen, at this point, they're 5-5. I kind of think they're going to finish 6-6, and I think they're going to miss the playoffs. So I think I missed on that one, Gerald.
Yeah, I wouldn't say you're wrong, right? They have an opportunity. Look, and they can play well, but Nashville might seem like an easy win, but who knows? But then they host Vancouver. We know what Vancouver's about. So
Yep. All right. So number 10, Denver. That was my second contender selection. They were 4-3 again. All of my teams were 4-3. Now 6-4. They host 7-3 Houston in just a little bit. That one's going to be a really tough test for them. And then they host 1-8 Oklahoma City to end the season. So I think worst case scenario, they finish 7-5. Best case scenario, they finish 8-4 and win the division. So, are they still a contender? Yes, I think so.
I do think they are. Their toughest game is going to be tonight, the one we're
Yes.
calling tonight. So if they get through this game with a win, I think they win that 8th game.
And number 9, Fort Worth. By the way, happy birthday to Luis Gonzalez. We're not going to sing to him because it's Fort Worth. I don't sing to Fort Worth peeps, but I did send him a text and say happy birthday. So that's I think that's nice enough. Moving on. Fort Worth, they were also 4-3. They are now 6-4. They still have a path to win the South. They're going to be at number 3 and 7 Pittsburgh, and then they host 8-2 Albuquerque. So be interesting to see how that one plays out. They're 6-4. This is another team that I think worst case scenario, they finish 7-5. I'm going to even drop an early bold playoff prediction. I think the entire South makes it into the playoffs this season.
I don't know. I wouldn't be so sure. Pittsburgh plays better at home. I know they only have 3 wins at this point, but they do go to Pittsburgh, and Pittsburgh is able to kind of pull something, together when they play tough teams at home. So I wouldn't be so sure.
All right. Well, those are those were mine. Let's see yours.
Well, for me, so let's start off, and this is the one I think I've gotten wrong so far.
Yep.
Is Bossier City. They done rose to the challenge. Why they were 4-3 when I picked them. I predicted they go 4-8. Guess what happens? Now they're 6-3. They done already, blew past it. If there's anybody that is thrives on motivation, it's Johnny Pickler, who leads that team. And that team and Michaela Forker and all the stats they put together there, they found something really good. They made a couple things, but they still have somewhat of a tough schedule left.
Yes.
Vancouver on the road. Then they host Washington, and then they host Houston. All these teams are at 7 wins at this point. So they still have that tough road to go. So they could still finish, at 6-6, but they're going to have to do it the hard way.
Yeah. And that's why my early playoff prediction of the entire division, making it into the playoffs it is bold because they have to at least win one of those, I think,
Correct.
If not 2. And like you said, at 7-3, and then they're hosting 7-2 and hosting 7-3. That's they have the number 1 strength of schedule remaining out of all 25 teams.
So and look and my next one here is Florida, the Florida Storm, 4-3. I said 5-7, 6-6 at best. They are 4-5 currently.
Yes.
They play Arizona, who is at 4-5, and then they go. They host Indianapolis. They play Arizona on the road, by the way. And then they host Indianapolis, and then they actually host Baltimore. So
they're not on this graphic on your screen.
Right.
They're gone.
Yeah, they're completely not there. So which means and that's kind of tough to see in everything else that they have. So, but this is a thing right here where I still think I'm going to stay true to it and saying, hey, 6-6 is the best, but they're more likely 5-7 right here.
Yes. Yeah, I would agree. It just has not looked like the Florida team of old. They played some tough opponents. And, ending the season against Baltimore, I think 5-7 is probably the best that they're looking at.
So, and the other one last, right? And the 2 pretenders are playing each other this week in Florida and Arizona. So guess what? Arizona was 3-3 when I picked them to be a pretender. I actually predicted they were going to go 5-7.
Yep.
Static 5-7. They are 4-5. I think they might have one more win in them if they might be able to get to 6-6, but it's going to be a tough road for them, I think, because they're going to have to. They play Florida this week on Monday, and then they travel down to L.A., which L.A. is not a very good team, but then they host Mexico City, the reigning champ. So I do think that they are they're right on track to what maybe I predicted them to be.
Yeah, so it looks like both of us still on pace to be right with 2 of them and maybe just wrong with 1. Lexington, I don't think they're the contender I thought they might be, and Bossier City is definitely proving they're not the pretender that you thought they would be.
No.
So, all right,
it's not over yet.
It's not over yet. There's still time. This is just we're just revisiting. We're not declaring victory or defeat yet. We were just revisiting. So, let's talk about some of our early playoff predictions here. One of the interesting things that, and looking back at the league's history, in the past 15 seasons, going from season 9 all the way through season 23, 15 seasons, how many different teams do you think have won a championship?
I already know the answer to
5.
That. It's insane.
Only 5 different franchises in 15 seasons have won a championship. In the entire SFL history, there has only been 9 teams total that have actually won a championship game. There's a lot of repeats. You have, in the past 15 in particular, you've got Baltimore, who won 5, and Florida, who won 5, 3 of which were as the Alaska Storm, and then 2 with Florida Storm. A couple of teams with 2 championships each in the past 15 seasons, Mexico City and Denver. And then that one straggler, rare, random team in there was Atlanta, where they were able to get a championship in those past 15 seasons. Then a few other franchises before that, obviously, with Queen City is the New York Knights, and you know, in the Queen City brand, you had Orlando, you had the Minneapolis Maulers, and I feel like I'm missing one, but there, you know, there's been a bunch of different ones. Florida, you know, a multi-time champion, not even in the playoff picture right now. Doesn't look like they probably will be. But what other things do you think, you know, might be shaking up on the board here?
I think we're going to see a really huge shuffle, like somewhere right in the middle, right? So I think, you know, even tonight, right? What do we have tonight? We have Denver and Houston playing tonight. So you can actually see that
number 5 Houston and number 10
and you can
Denver.
actually see that kind of shift just through tonight. So, hey, if you know, if Denver happens to beat Houston, it changes it, or vice versa. That 5th loss by Denver could very well knock them right out of it at week's end. And last week we actually saw Minnesota hanging right down by 15.
Right.
And they win, and it throws them right back in it. So, look, and also another one to look at here, too, is also the Steamers. The Steamers are now 7th, but we know the tough road that they have coming up. They could fall right out and finish 6-6. And you can even see a team like Fort Worth rise up and get inside that top 5.
Yeah.
You know, like around the, you know, like the 5 to 7 and 8 area. So I still think there's a whole lot of shuffling going on. I don't think the teams down at the bottom are out of it quite yet.
They're not.
And we could very well see those 3 teams at the bottom right in, and 3 teams in like a Bossier City, a Denver, or maybe even a Fort Worth or Minnesota, right? Because Minnesota's kind of struggled a little bit this season.
They're 12
fall
right now.
right out of it, and those teams get right back in.
Well, Minnesota was out, and now they just snuck their way back in. Mexico City, obviously beating Vancouver last week, now in that coveted top 4 that gets that first round bye. And Vancouver, who was in the top 4, if I remember right, they were 2.
Yep.
And they've fallen all the way down to 6. So there's
one loss drops you that far.
Yeah, and it's going to shuffle around quite a bit more. So, be interesting to see how these next couple weeks play out. So let's get back into some of our regularly scheduled programming, shall we? Let's get into our offensive and defensive player spotlights from Week 12. For the offensive player spotlight, Gerald, I couldn't just pick one guy this week. I had to go with 2, and I know you were shaking your head and making fun of me, and like I always say when you don't like my picks, I don't care. Let's see the footage for the picks that I made for this week. It's none other than DC Dragons running backs Kevin Say and Sam Harrison. The 2 of these guys combined. Look at these 2 Dragons, Gerald. Those are the guys that got it done, because look at these stat lines that you see for the 2 of these guys, right? A combined 343 yards and 4 touchdowns, all on the ground. Harrison absolutely dominated in the first half. Kevin Say, he busted out in the second half. Kevin Say was more of the yardage guy. He's the one, he had 226 yards on 36 rushing attempts. He only had 1 touchdown. It was Sam Harrison that got the other 3. Harrison, he only had a paltry 117 yards, but that was only on 21 carries. If you round these numbers, Gerald, both guys averaged 6 yards per carry, and that's on 57 rushing attempts for 343 yards. It's ridiculous. And the thing is, too, you would expect, well, maybe one of these runs went for, you know, like 85 yards. They just busted a long one. Nope. Longest run of the day was 36 yards. So these yards were gained, as you're seeing, in chunks. But we had asked the question, could the Queen City Corsairs slay the dragon? They couldn't even slow the dragon down. Why? Because there's 2 of them out there. Another 14-yard chunk there. Look at these halftime stats, right? 11 rushing attempts, 52 yards, and a touchdown. In the second half, Harrison's stats would be even better. He had only 10 rushing attempts, but got more yards, 65 of them, and 2 touchdowns in the second half alone, averaging 5.6 for the entire second half. this is how the Dragons got it done, and this is how they're going to want to continue to get it done the rest of the season if they have a shot at the playoffs. Is going to be on the legs of these two guys. Take some pressure off of Sebastian Energy and put it in the hands of your running back. Look at this right here, 136 yards with 4 minutes to go in the third quarter. Gerald, he still had another 100 yards to pile on. 4 minutes to go in the third quarter, and he had 136 yards, and he still had another 100 yards. I haven't been able to get Ray Bentley 100 yards, except for I think once this whole season. He did it in the last 14 minutes of the ball game. But I couldn't just pick one of these guys. Kevin Say with 36 rushing attempts, 226 yards, and a touchdown. But Harrison punching 3 of them into the end zone is, you see another 3-yard touchdown run there. These two guys combined, that's what got it done for DC this week.
Look, and I know, like you said, I make fun of you about picking these.
It's
picking
a player spotlight.
It is a player spotlight. But guess what? These two guys earned it the way the game plan was set up. They were crazy successful.
Yes.
Like getting over 6.5 yards a carry each.
Yep.
Have gotten over that. One was, plus 6.
Yeah.
Yards a carry. So I can't look. And the way they're doing it, putting in the work, with not any big chunk runs, right? Like I said, the longest on the day between the two of them
36
was 36 yards, and for them to put that up, I can't disagree.
Yeah, when I saw those two stat lines, I'm like, nah, they had to go to Ron because Ron puts those beautiful videos together for us, and I said, can I do 2? I felt like a kid going to ask his dad for permission, and he said yes. So thank you, Ron, for putting that together for me. Defensive player spotlight. Who do you got?
So for me, look, this is the thing. Now I'm gonna just say this right here. For me, right, I've always picked these players. Right, stats are a thing that a lot of people stare at. Everything else. I'm looking at a player that makes a difference in key moments in a game. And my player this week, because he helped his team get their very first win this season, is Oklahoma City Renegades linebacker number 54, Jad McPherson. So, and what does he have? Right, not really impressive stats. Just had 10 tackles and 3 TFLs. Why? Because he passed the eye test for me as the game progressed on, and he got even better right here. This is the first play. Look, he doesn't make that tackle, but what's he do? He slows him down, allows his teammates to kind of come in there. And what's he do right here? Never quits on a play, and he's able to kind of come off the edge and kind of bring the running back down. And what does he do right here? This is a very, very thing, how he started finding his momentum. And what's he do right here? And this is a rookie, by the way, coming right off the edge and be able to stop that for a minimal gain right there as well. And right here, what does he do? Again, never quits in a play, working his way through the trash and able to make the tackle. And what's he do on this play here? As he goes up the middle, plugs the gap, right? And goes for a little bit of a ride, but guess what? He's able to bring the running back down. He shows a little bit of coverage skills and able to recognize back in coverage as a rookie to see where the ball's going and then actually attack the ball. What's he do here? Come from across the field in this way. Never quit. As a rookie, you never want to quit. You are 0-8. And guess what? Never quitting on every single play you can see here. Staying true and everything else. So guess what he does? Another one right here. Notices, hey, he's getting clogged up, in the back, waiting to see what happens, and just didn't waste too much time, gets in there and brings them down. But this play right here is what sold it for me. As you can see, he says, I see you, Chris Grant. I'm going to shut this down because my team needs a win. And what does he do? He reads and reacts very, very perfect. You can see he strafes across the line and blows him up. I love my Revs play. You can see, you can watch him. He's sliding right across, reacts, bam, finds the opening and hits him. And his team gets the ball back right there. And guess what he do? Forces the punt. His team gets the ball back, goes down, get yourself in field goal range. And as you see right here, and they deserve this video to be shown for them right here, getting their first win of the season. And guess what? Making it right there. He was a huge part of it, right? So, and I like to see that. Players that make a difference. And as a rookie, right, he is a second-round pick, right? Yeah. Number 33 overall. On the season, he has 37 tackles, 12 TFLs, 2 pass defenses, and 1 interception. As a rookie, he's making an impact on this team already. And even though through these highlights, you see, hey, they're 0-8, right? Some people may give up, but guess what? He stays true to it, and he's putting in the work each and every week, and he gets his team that first win, helps get his team that first win. Yeah. You, my friend, Jad McPherson, you earned it. And look, I gotta say, right? I could have been biased and chose my son. We know Blake B. Craze because they talking about it all over in the chat, right? And they know it. I could have been biased, but he is my defensive player spotlight every week, every single week. I watch my boy do his thing. Guess what? He knows I love him. Look, and he did get, deserved to get a nod, but this kid right here deserved to get this nod. And congratulations to Mr. McPherson.
Yeah, congratulations to him. I want to say he's probably the first rookie that we featured this season on the offensive and defensive player spotlight. So congratulations not only for having passed Gerald's patented eye test, but also being the first rookie to be spotlighted. So congrats. Yeah, it was great stuff. The streets are talking again, Gerald.
Oh, they woke up.
They were quiet last week, but the streets, they are talking. Streets are talking community vote. For week 12, only 56 responses. Listen, when Brett posts that link, you got to vote. The more votes, the better. I want to see more of what the community has to say. But the offense, they agreed with my offensive selection. Kevin Say with 33.9% of the vote. Only Kevin Say. Sam Harrison was not on the ballot, and it's kind of hard to vote for two on a Google form. So, but kind of went with the same sort of concept. Honorable mention to Colin Pierce, the Oklahoma City quarterback, probably for the same reasons that you picked Oklahoma City's defense. Got him that first win, 17 votes for him, and then tied with 7 votes apiece, Ziggy Roenick and Henry McGee. Wide receivers for Pittsburgh and Fort Worth. On the defensive side, Carolina's cornerback Davidson Joseph with 21 votes. He was the defensive player selection. Jad McPherson not on the ballot. We don't always necessarily care about that ballot, Gerald. We just
I care nothing about the ballot.
The patented eye test selects on its own. Honorable mentions there. Arizona's linebacker Sean Moore with 13 votes. And Sin City's free safety Kanye Rockefeller, he had 11 votes. So congratulations to everybody this week for having fantastic games. So speaking of fantastic games, Gerald, this one,
I think it's the way you're going.
I got a feeling it's going to be a great one. Houston at Denver, one of the teams that is vying for the top spot in the South, takes on a team that's clinging on for dear life to the top spot in the Central. So Houston, not quite in the top yet. Denver is in the top, but by this much, and they've got to keep winning if they're going to hold on to it. Houston's at 7-3, and they're only just barely behind Mexico City at 7-2, and Albuquerque at 8-2. Houston, they have the head-to-head win over Mexico City, much to my dismay, but not Albuquerque. So Houston has to win their last 2 games to even possibly win the South. Albuquerque would have to lose both of their remaining games as well, and Mexico City would have to lose at least one of their final 3 for Houston to have a shot at the top spot. So Houston can win the South, but they need help along the way too. They got to win out, and they need help along the way. For Denver, they're in the number 1 spot right now, but they're only 6-4, so just barely in that top spot. Minnesota's also 6-4, and Denver obviously holds the head-to-head over them. They beat them 2 weeks ago. Denver at home tonight, hosting Houston, and then they finish the regular season next week here in Denver, hosting Oklahoma City, who's obviously, as you know, got 1 win. So they've got a good shot at going 8-4 and winning the division. Unlike Houston, their fate is solely in their hands. If they win out, they will win that division. If they don't win out, and it's up in the air. It depends on what Minnesota does. So, but by taking down Houston, even being at home, it's not going to be an easy task, right? It's still Houston. Houston boasts arguably the league's best running game. I know we just highlighted DC's running game, but Houston's arguably even better. They've at least been more consistent. They've got much better stats throughout the whole season. If DC can keep this thing going, especially into next season, they could have a very dominant rushing game. But Houston, that's it right now. And of course, the Lake Man at quarterback, we knew this coming as soon as we saw him signed as a free agent in the offseason. He's having a phenomenal season. One of our favorite guys. Friend of the show. He's always up there in the chat.
Definitely.
Love seeing him there. Don't like seeing him on the field, but now I'm biased because he's in the South. But yeah, it's going to be a tall task for really both of these teams tonight. What's Houston going to get?
Yeah, so look, and Houston is winners of 4 straight games, right? And have, as you just mentioned, some of our favorite peeps, Damon Simeon, the Lake Man, and as everybody knows, Blake B. Craze, the best linebacker you ever gonna see play.
Offense, defense, and coaching. There you go.
Totally biased right there. Love that kid. I love you, boy. But look, Houston also boasts the number 1 offense in the league behind, you guessed it, the Lake Man, John Lakeman, who is having a great season and is number 6 in passing yards in the league. But I think the stars of this offense is in the backfield.
Yes, sir.
And it starts with running back Josh Slapp, who is having such a phenomenal season. Number 1 in rushing. He has 922 yards as of today. And it's, in my opinion, he's very likely going to get those 78 yards and put him over the edge to get his 1K tonight. And he averages over 4.5 yards per carry. Collectively, with Slapp, DRSim, I don't know why you're running the ball. You're a better wide receiver, but you're doing okay. So with DRSim, Doyle, and Rivera in the backfield, look, they have the league's number 1 rushing offense, and they are 6th best in points per game.
Yeah.
Very, very effective offense when that thing is rolling. So look, their offense can be dangerous, and it is.
Yeah, and I think the same can be said for their defense too. I mean, if you were to just go and start polling random people in the league, say, who do you think the league's best defense is, or just give me the top 3 best defenses, I'm not sure that people would even think to mention Houston. Listen, there's so many good teams this season,
right?
But statistically speaking, they're basically the 2nd best defense in the league.
And guess what? They are sneakily doing it. So they are sneakily ranked number 2 in defense in the league. Yep. I didn't think it when I was thinking about it. Yeah. Look, my boy is always the best when he's out there. He boosts them out there. Is what he did. Got him already up in the number 2 defense. But look, defense has been really, really good. This defense is led by linebacker Jason Peace, who better be an all-star this season with his 6 interceptions, which is 2nd in the SFL amongst everyone. So this unit also rushes the passer very effectively as well, having 21 sacks on the season so far, 3rd best in the SFL, with Mac Dre leading the team with 5.5 sacks. And yes, I got to give my boy Blake B. Craze his due. He is 2nd on the team in sacks.
I think you already
4.
have.
Oh, I'm going to keep giving it to him. With 4 sacks. And they are also a really good squad at knocking the ball down.
Yeah.
They are, they're also best in the league of getting it away and batting the balls down, right? Because they're able to clog up the passing lanes, what helps them be successful on 3rd down, which they are one of the top teams, in reducing the 3rd down conversions of their opponents. So very, very under the radar team right now. And if you don't prepare for this team, which I think a lot of people is just kind of not thinking Houston is a thing, they up and coming. You better look out because they're going to punch you in the face and they're going to kick you out the door.
Yeah, Denver's got quite the tall task tonight, but Denver has been one of the surprise teams this season. They did not have a good season 23 and season 24. They're 6-4. They're currently leading their division.
And this is the thing, like one of the surprise teams of season 24 is Denver.
Yes.
Their success, in my opinion, is all due to Michael Goodman and Jimmy Hatzis, who are doing an excellent job of turning this team around and getting them right back into the winning column, right? We know Denver, you just mentioned earlier, has 2 championships within the last 15 seasons, right? So look, and like I said, I spoke of it the last, a few weeks ago, right? Is what they have done to get it back is these guys, and they're able to win on a consistent basis under this leadership. Now, look, the offense isn't wowing people in any way with the passing game, but guess what quarterback Trellis Blend does? 2nd fewest interceptions in the SFL, along with I think an SFL rarity. You know it, an SFL rarity is that he is on the plus side in a touchdown to interception ratio.
I think there's only 6 quarterbacks in that category.
And he's one of them. That means they're among the league's best in the fewest turnovers. They're 2nd in the league in the fewest turnovers. We're not turning the ball over. Guess what? You're able to win games and everything else if you're not giving it to the other team. The running game is where the power lies with this squad, though. What they have running backs Bailey O'Shaughnessy and Dwayne Salmons. Let's go Revs, who both have over 600 yards rushing this season. Number 6 rushing offense. I think they also are underrated as an offensive unit.
Could be quite the ground and pound football game tonight with both of these teams boasting such good running games. Talk about their defense and what they got going on.
In my opinion, it comes down to the scheme of defensive coordinator Jimmy Hatzis, who's turned this thing out. They were in the bottom half of the league in everything last season and before. He comes in there. Now they're one of the top defenses in the league right now. I don't think people realize it, right? With the addition of Chuck Diesel, go Revs, you know it, and pair him with John Martin, along with the scheme that Hatsy has built for these guys, has these two linebackers with TFL machines.
Yes.
Both are top 5 in TFLs in the SFL as of today. Both top 5 in the backfield, living in the backfield. Both of them from the linebacker position.
I'm jealous.
Look, and let's not forget cornerback Luke Schreiner on the back end is having a great season, has 5 interceptions as well, right? And I'm going to take it back, right? I'm going to take it back to the Revs as well. And I also believe his success is due to the former defensive player of the season and free safety Tank Bennett. You say it.
Go Revs.
Go Revs. We who strikes fear in quarterbacks and wide receivers as a whole. But I do think all that stuff is put together by Hatsits and his defensive scheme. It's been a huge part of this team's success from a defensive standpoint, and I think they got something really, really special if they can keep this core together and keep it going.
About 10 minutes from getting that game going. Gerald's fired up, if you can't tell. I'm excited now.
I'm just at it,
He's
man.
just ready to go. It's Friday night, baby.
I'm
back.
I'm just amped up.
Yeah, no kidding. Jason Peace, he's ready to get some more interceptions. He says his team's looking for 3 picks tonight at least. So it's gonna be a running slugfest. It's gonna be a defensive slugfest.
A lug pest.
The only good bug is dead bug.
Whatever. Let's keep going.
Let's just keep moving on. I don't know even what's happening anymore.
Jesus.
Let's talk about our
I'm
picks.
starting to sweat right now,
I
man.
can tell. Yeah. It's getting intense up in the studio. So, picks on the season. We are both still tied. 69 wins, 42 losses. 42 losses is pretty sad, but we got to get better at this game. We both went 5-4 last week. We picked 3 losses, the same. You also picked Arizona to win. I picked Atlanta to win, and obviously we got those ones wrong. It keeps us the same again now through 12 weeks of making picks. We've got 34 picks left to go. We're going to do 7 of them tonight. Part of the problem is some of these teams are really starting to differentiate themselves from their opponents, and it makes it a little bit more obvious about who we might select, and we're picking a lot more of the same because, well, let's jump right into the first pick because that's a good example. Los Angeles at Washington.
Yeah, I think it's a no-brainer for this one here for me, right? Because LA just struggled. They struggled for seasons. Like I said, I'm trying to encourage them to have some sort of a coaching change, philosophy change, because it's not working. But guess what? Washington plays really, really well at home, and they are a team at 7 wins, only 2 losses. I think Washington wins, and I don't even think it's close.
Yeah, Washington's playing for that clinch of the playoffs in that game, and I think that they get it done. To your point, I think they get it done easily. Washington, I believe, gets the win. Atlanta at Oklahoma City.
This is another one I feel like is a no-brainer. I know OKC. I love what OKC did last week. Dude, they fought, and they got that win.
Yep.
And I know they're playing at home. But the Bugs, for some reason, man, when you bring out your pew-pews as the Renegades, I don't think you can hit the Bugs quite like you need to. You need a big, fly swatter type thing. Pow, pow, or some raid. Y'all don't got raid in the guns unless you do. Might have a little squirter. Call the Exterminator. They're not the Exterminators. They're the Renegades. So the Bugs are going to go in, sting them all up, and they're going to come out with the win.
I wish I have seen Christian Bachagalupi in the chat tonight. He's usually here. All season long, Christian Bachagalupi has been just totally blasting me for never picking OKC. And I said, prove it to me then. Prove me wrong. Please prove me wrong. What'd they do last week, Gerald? They proved us both wrong.
They sure did.
They went out and they got their first win. Who did I pick last week that let me down? Atlanta. All right. I'm not making the same mistake on both teams twice. Give me Oklahoma City to win this one at home. I think they win 2 games in a row.
Oh, that's going out on a limb. I don't want to be on that limb because you on the limb and you got a saw and you sawing actually toward the trunk.
What is wrong with you today?
You're going to fall. I'm telling you, you're going to fall.
Mexico City at Baltimore.
This was, at first thought,
7-2 at 7-2.
7-2. I got to looking at it, man, and I started doing a little bit of research, and
Baltimore
I started playing the eye test type thing. We know Baltimore is actually a team who plays really, really good at home.
They do.
And they're tough to beat at home. Man, I started looking at their games this season, and the eye test just wasn't telling me anything. I'm like, man, they're not winning as they should, as you would think a 7-2 team should. They're winning games, right? And that's all that matters.
Almost lost to LA.
But they're not winning against teams that they should really dominate in a dominating fashion. Who is doing that? Mexico City. So that's who I have to go. I think Mexico City is going to go into Baltimore and show that, hey, look, Baltimore isn't quite the team that everybody thinks they are, even though they are at 7-2. I think Mexico City is going to prove that, hey, look, they're not quite the 7-2 team that some people think they are. Mexico City takes it.
Yeah, Baltimore, their strength of schedule is actually bottom in the league. They've, statistically speaking, had the easiest path so far to get to 7-2. Mexico City schedules or strength of schedules up there in the top 10. I believe it's the top 5. I don't have it right in front of me. I'm going to pick Mexico City either way, obviously. But listen, I couldn't be more proud of this squad. Obviously, we won the championship last season, and the way that I've been seeing our team play lately, they're even better than they were in season 23.
It's scary. It's scary.
Listen, we just hosted the number 1 scoring offense and the number 1 scoring defense, and we held them to 3 points offensively. The only touchdown they got all game, Vancouver, was a pick 6.
I think it's the Santa Fe Gorilla magical jersey.
We really should just rebrand. We have
you guys have never lost in those.
Never
things.
lost in the Santa Fe throwbacks. So I don't know. Yeah, that would be a bad idea. Lexington at Nashville. Nashville's still winless.
See, and this is one, man, as I'm looking at it, I feel like I should go in the opposite direction because I just feel like it's happening right now for the squad, right? I feel like it's happening, and they're playing at home tonight.
They are.
Well, not tonight, just whenever they play.
Whenever.
Yeah, so I do think, look, they struggled,
Sunday.
Right? And I feel like maybe if I believe in them, they might win, but it ain't tonight, right? So I do think Lexington's going to go into Nashville. I feel bad because ever since I call them a pretender, they just collapsed.
And it just
won
one game since that time.
I feel bad. Most people rise to the occasion. Be a Carolina. Be a Bossier City. I trash them, and they win.
Yeah.
Win. And then
Carolina won the division.
OKC won. You can do it too. But I have to
it.
choose Lexington. They're going to go to Nashville, and they're going to win it.
Yeah, and I got to agree with you. I'm also picking Lexington. I did so very hesitantly because I picked Lexington to be a contender, and now I don't know that they're gonna. I think if they do win this game, I'm picking them to win this game. If they do, I think it's going to be their last win of the season based on what we talked about earlier, and I came this close to picking Nashville. So, but I think Lexington gets the win in that one. Minnesota at Charleston.
This is one that's going to come back and bite me in my ass. I'm sorry for the language, but I feel like it will because Minnesota has let me down before, and they're playing on the road, and Charleston looked really, really good last week in winning how they did against a good team. And guess what? I'm picking Minnesota. Don't make me regret it. I might just have to grind your bones.
Again, with the grinding bones thing. Next week, he's going to be wearing green face paint, and he's going to have little ears.
I just like, don't make me regret it.
It's going to be Revs green.
I don't want to regret it.
With a little blue shirt.
We'll grind them up, and we'll just reincarnate ourselves.
All right, Shrek. Yeah, I'm going to go with Charleston. I'm picking Charleston at home. Why? Because I keep picking Minnesota. They keep letting me down. They did win last week. I picked them, and I said, if you lose that one, I'm never picking you again. They won it. I still might never pick them again. They're 12th. They're the 12th seed. They're barely behind Denver. But I think Denver, they might very well lose tonight against Houston. Houston's a tough team, but if they do, I don't think that Minnesota's going to gain anything on them because I think they're going to lose too. Charleston just showed us last week that they can win games. They're at home. I think they can get it done. I think they're going to get it done over Minnesota. Bossier City at Vancouver.
See, is another one I talk myself out. I'm trying to talk myself out of my pick as I'm going through them. I'm seeing them. I put it down on paper, and it just isn't. But I do think Vancouver is going to win. Bossier City isn't as good on the road, but then I say that, and they beat Minnesota on the road convincingly too as well. So I do think Vancouver has the firepower because they are one of the top offenses in the league. Can Bossier City do it? I think they can. Will they? I don't think so.
Yeah, I'm going to go with Vancouver as well. They only put up 3 points offensively last week. They're back in Canada. I don't think they only put up 3 offensively this week. Bossier City, I think, is going to struggle, and it's the first of 3 very tough games ahead for them. We'll see if they can win one of them. Vancouver, I think, gets the win. Monday Night Spectacular, Florida and Arizona.
Oh, man, this was one of 4 and 5s. It's the Pretender Bowl for me right here. And you know what? I don't think I can pick anyone that's going to make me happy with the result. I pick one, the other one's going to win.
Yep.
But I do think Florida's really, really struggling. They're on such a losing streak, and they're not even doing anything that's even remotely good or even remotely looks like their old self. So I think Arizona, even though they're struggling as well, I think they have a little bit of sense of what they want to be and where they're going. So I think Arizona wins it at home.
I'm also going to pick Arizona at home. Very similar teams. I think Arizona is going to win, at least a couple more games, and then we face them in week 15. But I think they get the win over Florida in this one. Florida, like you said, just weirdly struggling this season, and this isn't the week that they get it fixed. Arizona also weirdly struggling. I do think they get it turned around this week. That's it. That's all the time that we got for our Week 13 show. We've got a great game coming up in just a couple minutes' time. We've got Houston at Denver. Stick around. It's going to be a great one. Then a couple more games tonight, more games on Sunday. Monday Night Spectacular. Great weekend of SFL football. We'll see you guys in Denver. Just a few minutes. Stay with us.